It's an honor this morning to be sharing in the Transgender Day of Remembrance worship celebration. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, for inviting me. I am a transgender male. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am a retired law enforcement officer and 9/11 first responder from New York City. Thank you. I became ill in 2012. I had already begun my physical transition from female to male, and I had to stop. In 2017, traditional and non-traditional treatments for various illnesses was not working. So I made the life-saving decision to move 2,400 miles away to Sedona, Arizona, to go on a journey of healing and well-being. Sedona is a beautiful, majestic, and sacred place I've been traveling to since 2007. Shortly after arriving, I began my mind, body, and spirit journey. In the first weeks, I realized in order to facilitate healing, I had to reconcile with myself the fact that my gender identity did not match my reflection in the mirror. I needed to create an understanding both for myself and for my community. To be honest, there really was little understanding of the transgender community, even from my lesbian, gay, and bisexual siblings. I wasn't the only transgender sibling living in this new community, but I was becoming most visible. Okay, we miss here. I did not feel embraced in Sedona at first. Feeling alone and being called she and ma'am on a regular basis was breaking my serenity. In some of the experience I encountered, I walked away laughing on the outside, but feeling frustrated. I thought, what was God's purpose when she led me to live in Sedona? I began to meditate as well as pray to be guided to a solution. Part of this prayer being, if your will is for me to live, show me how to do this. One of the scriptures I read was Psalm 139. I read several versions of Psalm 139. Throughout each text, all references were individual in nature. I did not read in any version where it said, God only made cisgender heterosexuals. So I continued to read, and this psalm guided me to my decision. Verse 13 and 15 certainly affirms who I am and confirms we all are intentionally created differently. However, it was verse 16 that clarified for me that God's purpose for each of us was not based on gender. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance, all the days that were formed for me when none of them as yet existed, which said to me my purpose and plan was about my innermost being, my light, my heart. So my perspective and interpretation of the psalm became, we are each created with life force energy, each of us being light, born with our own unique characteristics, and one aspect of my uniqueness is I am transgender. But I am light, you are light, we are all light, each of us with our own uniqueness, creating the tapestry of gender identity, sexual orientation, multiracial and multicultural world. So my solution became to love the body I am in, while honoring the man inside. I'm happy to say I've experienced great healing. However, to be transparent, my mind wandered once again to thinking about physical transitioning. Thank goodness one of my doctors spoke up and reminded me of the risk I would be taking after all that my body has gone through. One of my friends asked me, why would you think of doing this? Is it for you, or are you doing it to be accepted and loved by community? To be honest, it wasn't for me. So I say with deep respect in my heart for all of you, Let's stop debating about gender identity. I know this is not simple, but gender identity has been taught for generations through the lens of white supremacy culture, transgender, non-binary, bigender, two-spirited, genderqueer, or gender nonconforming, and intersexed individuals have always existed. We are just becoming more visible and using our voices to bring about awareness and change. Let's ask the questions about the issues that impact non-gender conforming siblings in this society. What you will learn are similarities in the struggles that all indigenous and marginalized people have in this country. This year, I participated in planning of the first Transgender Summit in Sedona, May 2019, for the whole state of Arizona. The committee represented various gender identities. The program was designed to educate and bring awareness to the transgender, non-gender conforming community and the communities they live in. It wasn't a surprise that racism, exclusion from healthcare and social services, employment discrimination, homelessness, poverty, immigration barriers, and policing and criminal justice reform were the hot topics. Does this sound familiar? It became clear to me that we as non-conforming individuals experience rejection, emotional pain, physical danger, and oppression on a daily basis because we are striving to live an authentic life. 41% of our community has attempted suicide. One of the summit planners shared their journey of what it was like to be an undocumented, non-binary, Latinx homeless sex worker. And yes, I said one of the planners because we invited everybody to the table. The only job they could get was to be a sex worker. This person consistently worried about being arrested and deported or not receiving medical treatment, not having a place to live or a hot meal, and if they would be assaulted or killed. In 2018, the American Medical Association declared transgender violent deaths an epidemic. The AMA recognized that number are underreported and many victims are misgendered at the time of death. In 2018, we mourned 27 of our gender nonconforming siblings. 25 of those siblings were transgender women of color. In 2019, all 25 violent deaths have been transgender women of color. I find this appalling, unacceptable, and heartbreaking. How about you? So what do? How do we become part of the change? How do we bring awareness and education to others in the communities we live in and worship in? For me, I became a board member of Unify Sedona. Unify Sedona serves the LGBTQIA community by promoting and celebrating diversity through education and community outreach. Non-discrimination, youth and education, transgender rights, and health and aging are the 4 pillars and the foundation of our organization. And for the faith communities, they were not present at the Transgender Summit, even though they were invited. Many people looked for their presence and noticed their absence. I realized that open and affirming in these faith communities seem hollow. They did not feel safe, embracing, and exclusive for gender nonconforming people like me. I made it a priority to start reaching out to the faith communities. After all, my roots are in this congregation, Middle Church, and I carry them with me. You folks here taught me to be bold, so I didn't give up. My bigender friend JJ and I preached at the Sedona Unitarian Universal Fellowship on transgender insight and education. I made an announcement at another congregation about local events Unify Sedona was hosting, and I have had conversations with 2 other faith leaders, and here I am today with you. So I am thankful that Jackie invited me here. will be including gender identity as part of the Middle Revolutionary Love Conference in April 2020. I am praying, holding space, and hoping hearts and minds will change in all faith communities. Remember, the oppressors capitalize on division amongst the oppressed. Solidarity is necessary for all of us to overcome. And I leave you with a few requests. Transgender Day of Remembrance is Wednesday, November 20th. I ask that you, in some way, remember our transgender siblings and their families. And we're going to be putting up their names on the... that have lost their lives to violence because of who they are. Light a candle, say a prayer, meditate, ring the bell here at Middle, or attend a vigil in New York City. I ask you also to pray for me and the folks in Sedona. On November 20th this year, Unify Sedona, PFLAG, Sedona International Film Festival, has formed an alliance to show educational LGBT films at Mary Fisher Theater. I have sponsored a film to be shown called Becoming More Visible, a documentary that follows 4 young transgender transitioning stories. On Trans Day of Remembrance, we will be doing this. It will be followed by a vigil where 4 faith leaders will attend both the movie and the vigil. This is the first time this has happened, and we will appreciate your prayers. Change is happening because I learned how to be bold, embracing, compassionate, loving, and exclusive. I am because you are. May we at Middle continue this journey of learning and embracing each other with love. Thanks again. It's great to be home.